The galaxy was silent the moment the first shot was fired. No warning, no words, no declaration, no elation only, a beam of energy that tore through the darkness and struck a human vessel drifting near the outer rim. It was supposed to be a peaceful patrol, a simple watch on the edge of known space. But when the alien weapon hit, everything changed. Inside the command deck of the Resolute Dawn, alarms screamed. Crew members rushed to their stations, their faces pale in the red glow of emergency lights. The hull shuddered, metal groaned, and sparks fell like rain. For a second, no one spoke. They all knew what had just happened. Someone had fired first. And it wasn't them. The captain stood frozen, his eyes locked on the viewing screen. Beyond the ship's cracked window of light, the enemy vessel hovered in silence. Sleek, dark, and armed, its shape was unfamiliar, nothing seen in any database of known species. Whoever they were, they had made their choice. The silence was more terrifying than the attack itself. "Damage report," the captain whispered. "Hull breach contained. Engines holding. Shields are down," replied his officer, her voice trembling. The crew waited for orders, but the captain's mind was already racing. Humanity had been warned for decades. One day the galaxy would test them. Diplomats had spoken of peace, of alliances, of patience. But war had always been waiting, hiding behind the stars. Now it was here, and the strange part, this enemy hadn't tried to talk. No threats, no demands, no reason. Just fire. The captain clenched his fists. He knew the rules of war. He knew the Council's laws. But in his chest, in the hearts of every human, another rule was written in fire. If you strike first, you'd better finish the job. 'Cause humans never stop once they rise. "Target locked," whispered the weapons officer, her hands hovering above the controls. The crew exchanged glances. They could still wait. They could still try to send a signal. They could still hope for peace. But deep down, every single one of them knew the moment had already passed. On the edge of the galaxy, far from Earth, a single spark had been lit. The captain gave the order. The counterattack began. In the span of seconds, human weapons spoke. A ripple of missiles tore through the void, guided with precision. Rail cannons lit up the blackness, their shots faster than sound could ever travel. The alien vessel tried to move, tried to shield itself, but it was too late. Human firepower was relentless, unforgiving. The enemy ship exploded in silence, a flash of light swallowed by the cold emptiness of space. Debris scattered, glowing for moments before fading into darkness. The crew of the Resolute Dawn watched in silence. It had taken them seconds. Seconds to erase what had dared to strike first, but the silence that followed was heavier than before. Because this was not the end. This was the beginning. Somewhere out there, the enemy's allies would hear of this. They would say humans overreacted. They would say humans were monsters, quick to destroy. They would whisper the same words that had echoed through centuries of human history. Dangerous, violent, uncontrollable. But none of that mattered now. Humanity had been attacked, and humanity had answered. The captain leaned back in his chair, his jaw tight. He knew what was coming next. He knew this was only the first battle of something much larger. And yet in the silence, he felt no fear, because he had seen it with his own eyes. When pushed, when struck without warning, when treated as prey, humans did not retreat. They did not bow. They rose. Across the stars and hidden halls of alien empires, the news would spread quickly. Some would laugh. Some would shake their heads. Some would prepare for war. All of them would remember the same thing. The first strike was not theirs to celebrate, because when humans counterattacked, the fight ended before it even began. In that moment, the galaxy had no idea what storm was coming. The crew of the Resolute Dawn sat in silence, their hands shaking, their eyes fixed on the empty space where an enemy had once been. They didn't cheer, they didn't speak, they only waited, because they all knew more ships would come, and when they did, humanity would be ready. The captain broke the silence with words spoken in a steady voice. "Signal Earth. Tell them. It has begun." The officer swallowed hard, then nodded. Her hands moved quickly across the console, sending the message through encrypted channels. Somewhere far away, in the blue glow of Earth's skies, leaders would soon see it. One sentence, one truth, one warning. They fired the first shot. Humanity answered, and that answer was only the beginning. The message reached Earth within hours. In the deep chambers of the United Earth Command, the words appeared on the screen like a warning carved in stone. They fired the first shot. Humanity answered. The room fell silent. Generals, admirals, diplomats stared at the message without speaking. Some leaned back in shock, some clenched their jaws, and some quietly whispered to themselves. The council chamber, usually filled with debate and noise, felt like a tomb. Because everyone in that room understood what this meant. Humanity was at war. For decades, Earth had sent envoys into the stars. They had joined trade routes, signed treaties, even bowed to galactic rules when needed. Humanity had been called newcomers, upstarts, even children playing in the dark. And humans had smiled, had endured, had waited, but all the while in secret, had prepared an orbit above Earth. Warships slept like steel giants, their hulls hidden under peaceful banners. Deep beneath the oceans, submarines carried weapons designed not for Earth, but for the stars. In the shipyards of Mars, engineers built engines that could outrun most alien cruisers. And now, all of it would be needed. The Supreme Commander stood. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned. They struck first. It means they chose war. And they will learn what war with humanity means. Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire. Alien governments whispered to each other in panic. The unknown attackers were identified an old race from the outer arms called the Kari. Predators. Hunters. A species that thrived on striking. First and feeding on fear. The Kari had watched humanity for years. To them, humans were fragile creatures, soft and untested. They believed one strike would be enough to send Earth running back into its cradle. One strike to prove dominance, one strike to end the story before it even began. But they had been wrong. The destruction of the Kari, shipped by the Resolute Dawn, was only the start. The Kari Council roared with anger when they received the news. To them, it was an insult beyond measure. Their warriors had been wiped out in seconds, humiliated by what they still called a young species. They gathered fleets. They prepared for retaliation, but they had underestimated one thing. Humans did not wait to be hunted. Before the Kari could strike again, human fleets were already on the move. Warships rose from Earth's oceans, from lunar docks, from Martian yards. Entire squadrons blinked into the blackness of space, their drives glowing like angry stars. The order was simple. Do not wait. Strike first. End this before it spreads. And so, humanity's counterattack began to unfold. The Resolute Dawn, paired and armed, was joined by dozens of others. They moved together like a storm, each ship a blade pointed toward the enemy's heart. But the Kari were waiting. The first clash happened near a barren world, its surface nothing but stone and dust. Human scouts had moved in, thinking the system was empty. Instead, they found a trap. Dozens of Kari warships emerged from hiding, their weapons already burning. The blackness of space turned white with fire. Missiles screamed, beams cut through the dark, and ships tore at each other like predators in the wild. The battle was chaos. Human ships shuddered under the force of alien weapons. Alarms echoed, hulls cracked, and screams filled the comm channels. But the humans did not falter. They moved as one, precise and relentless. Rail cannons thundered. Torpedoes tore through enemy shields. Fighters swarmed like hornets, darting between the Kari cruisers. Punching holes into their armor, the Kari had expected fear. They had expected hesitation. What they faced instead was fury. In less than an hour, the trap turned against them. Half the Kari fleet was destroyed. The rest tried to retreat, their ships scattering into the void. But humanity chased them, cutting down every vessel they could reach. The barren world remained silent, its surface scarred by falling wreckage. Stars above glowed with the fire of broken ships. The battle was over. Humanity had won again. But victory brought no celebration. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, the captain stared at the debris field, his face hard. He knew what this meant. The Kari would not stop. It would not surrender. It would send more fleets, stronger fleets, until the war consumed everything. And worse, other alien empires were watching already. Whispers filled the galactic channels. Some feared humans. Some wanted to avoid the war. But others saw opportunity. If humanity and the Kari destroyed each other, who would be left to claim the ruins? The galaxy was shifting. Lines were being drawn. And in the center of it all stood humanity, no longer silent, no longer underestimated. The war had begun, and there was no turning back. The captain looked at his crew. "Send the next coordinates," he said. His voice was steady, calm. "We keep moving. We keep striking. Until they understand, this will not end on their terms. It will end on ours." The stars stretched before them, endless and cold. But humanity's fire burned brighter, and somewhere in the dark, the Kari prepared their next move, because this was no longer about a single shot. This was survival, and in survival, humans never lost. The wreckage from the last battle still floated in the void when humanity made its next move. The message was clear. The Kari had wanted fear, but they had earned fury instead. Yet victory came with a shadow. The survivors of the Kari fleet had escaped, scattering into the dark. They would not remain silent. They would return to their leaders with stories of fire and destruction, stories of humans who struck back without hesitation. And the galaxy would listen. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, voices rose like a storm. Ambassadors from dozens of species argued, shouted, and accused. The name humanity echoed in every corner. Too dangerous. Too reckless. They destroyed a fleet in less than an hour. They will spread war, if not stopped. Others were silent. Those who had watched humans carefully, those who had seen the fire burning behind human patience, now whispered different words. Perhaps the Kari chose the wrong prey. Perhaps humanity is not weak, but something far worse. While the galaxy argued, humanity prepared. On Earth, cities lit up with urgency. Factories turned from peace to war production. Old designs, hidden for decades, were pulled from vaults. Weapons once thought too dangerous were now built without hesitation. Orbital shipyards glowed day and night, welding steel into shapes meant for battle. On Mars, engineers worked without rest. Faster engines, stronger shields, deadlier weapons. Humanity had always learned quickly, always adapted. Now every second mattered, and in deep space, fleets gathered, but the Kari were not idle. From their strongholds at the edge of the galaxy, the Kari called their warlords. Vast fleets rose from hidden fortresses, their numbers far greater than what humanity had faced before. The loss of one fleet was not defeat, was insult. And the Kari did not forgive insults. They wanted to prove the first strike had not been a mistake. They wanted to crush the humans so completely that the galaxy would laugh at Earth's ashes. And so, the Kari prepared a storm of their own. The next clash came sooner than anyone expected. The Resolute Dawn led a formation of human ships into a contested sector. Intelligence had reported Kari activity. But what they found was far more. Hundreds of Kari vessels emerged from the blackness, surrounding them like a net. Their engines glowed with red light, their weapons charged and waiting. The human crews stared in silence. The last battle had been fierce, but this was different. This was war on a scale they had never seen. The captain of the Resolute Dawn stood tall. His voice was calm, though the weight of what was before them pressed hard on his chest. "Transmit to all ships. Hold the line. No retreat." The message spread across the human fleet. And as the Kari moved in, the void erupted. The battle began with fire that lit the stars. Missiles streaked across the black. Energy beams cut through the dark like burning blades. Rail cannons roared, their shells tearing into alien hulls. Human fighters danced between the enemy, darting like shadows, striking and vanishing before the Kari could react. But the Kari were relentless. Their ships pressed in from every side, hammering human shields, tearing at their defenses. One by one, human vessels cracked under the pressure. Explosions lit the void, each one a silent scream. On the Resolute Dawn, alarms blared. The hull trembled with every hit. Smoke filled the bridge as sparks rained from broken panels. Shields. "Failing," cried the officer. "Engines at 70%, shouted another. Still, the captain stood firm. "Keep firing," he ordered. "Every shot counts." And they did. Even as ships fell, even as the Kari pressed harder, the humans fought like no other species could. They fought with precision, with unity, and with something the Kari could not understand, rage. Every human loss only sharpened their resolve. Every explosion fueled their fire, and slowly, against all odds, the tide began to shift. The Kari had expected humans to break, but instead they found themselves bleeding, and ship after ship fell to human weapons. Their mighty fleet, designed to overwhelm, was being carved apart, piece by piece. The battle stretched for hours. When it ended, the void was littered with wreckage. Dozens of human ships had been lost. Thousands of lives were gone. But the Kari fleet was shattered. Only fragments of their once mighty force escaped into the dark the humans had held. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, the crew sat in silence, exhausted and shaken. The captain's face was pale, his eyes heavy, but his voice was steady. "We survived," he said. "That's enough." But deep down, he knew survival was not enough. Not anymore, because the Kari would return, stronger, angrier, and the galaxy. Watching from afar, now had no doubts. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not weak. But humanity was dangerous. And danger had a cost. The next war would not just be between the Kari and Earth. It would spread. It would pull others in. And soon the entire galaxy would have to choose a side. The humans looked into the void, into the wreckage of battle, and knew one truth. This was only the beginning. The wreckage of the great battle drifted for days, silent. Tombs glowing faintly in the cold light of distant stars. Human ships limped back to safe harbors, scarred but alive. Yet even in survival, there was no rest. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Cities that once glowed with hope now burned with urgency. Families whispered the names of lost sons and daughters. Governments stood in silence as casualty lists grew longer by the hour. But with every tear, with every moment of grief, a single word rose louder than all others. Resolve. Factories thundered. Shipyards worked without pause.
Ow!
Where once a single vessel took years to build, now dozens rose in months. Engineers unlocked designs that had been hidden for fear of making the galaxy uneasy. But fear was gone now. Humans were capable of, and in the council halls across alien worlds, voices trembled. The war between the Kari and humanity was no longer a distant story. It was spreading, rippling outward. Trade routes were collapsing. Borders were shaking. And most dangerous of all, every species was being forced to choose. Some feared the Kari, the old predators who had ruled their corner of the galaxy with fear for centuries. But others looked at Earth and saw something terrifying. Humans who refused to kneel. Humans who survived where no one else would. Whispers grew in the shadows. Alliances began to shift. Some secretly offered aid to Earth's small shipments of materials, encrypted intelligence, hidden support. Others sent messages to the Kari, eager to stand against what they now called the human problem. The galaxy was dividing, and in the darkness, the Kari prepared their next strike. This time, they would not scatter their fleets. This time, they would not underestimate. The warlords called upon their reserves, summoning ships from every corner of their empire. Hundreds, then thousands. A storm of steel and fire, all directed at one goal: break Earth. But humans were not. Waiting, the Resolute Dawn, repaired but scarred, returned to the front. Its captain knew what was coming. He had seen the Kari rage, had felt the weight of their hate. And yet, as he looked at his crew, he found no fear, only determination. "Listen," he said, his voice steady in the hum of the bridge. Think numbers will break us. They think fear will silence us. But they don't understand. Fear does not break humans, it makes us sharper. The crew nodded. They understood. And then came the warning. Scouts reported Kari fleets moving in mass towards Sol itself, toward Earth. For a moment, silence gripped every human world. The idea was unthinkable. The predators were coming to the cradle of humanity. The blue planet that had birthed every dream, every war, every triumph. If Earth fell, humanity would end. The response was immediate. Every fleet turned homeward. The outer colonies. Vessels hidden for decades rose from Earth's oceans, breaking the waves with steel hulls that touched the sky. The skies above Earth became a storm of engines, a wall of light ready to burn. The Kari wanted to end everything in one strike. Humanity intended to meet them with everything it had. And so, the stage was set. The largest armada humanity had ever assembled formed in Sol orbit. Battleships larger than cities. Carriers bristling with fighters. Dreadnoughts armed with weapons never before tested in war. The people of Earth watched from below. Families looked to the sky and saw it glowing with ships, each one a promise, each one a shield. The fear of the first strike was gone. Now there was only defiance. The Kari arrived in silence. Their fleet poured from hyperspace like a flood, blotting out the stars. Thousands of ships, red engines burning like fire in the night. They did not speak. They did not send demands. They only came to kill, and in orbit above Earth, humanity waited. The moment stretched into eternity. Two armies, staring at each other across the black, each waiting for the other to move. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, and then once again the Kari fired first. Beams of energy cut across the void, slamming into human shields. Explosions flared as the first line of defense buckled. The war for Earth had begun. But this time, humanity did not simply answer. They unleashed everything. Rail cannons thundered, their slugs ripping through enemy cruisers like paper. Swarms of fighters erupted from carriers, darting like angry hornets, shredding Kari vessels at close range. Dreadnoughts fired weapons so powerful that entire enemy squadrons vanished in a single flash. The sky above, Earth became a storm of fire. The Kari pressed harder, their ships swarming in endless waves. But humanity held. Ship by ship, the predators fell. Their numbers so great began to scatter under the weight of human fury. The people of Earth watched as the night sky lit up with war. Cities trembled with the sound of distant thunder, sound of fleets clashing just beyond the atmosphere, and for the first time in history, Earth itself became the heart of a galactic war. The captain of the Resolute Dawn stood firm, his eyes locked on the burning void. His ship shuddered with every impact, but his voice never wavered. "Hold the line," he said, "for Earth." And across the fleets, that command became a roar. For Earth, the battle raged. Ships burned. Lives were lost. But humanity refused to bow. The Kari had come to break the cradle of mankind. Instead, they had awakened something far worse. Because when Earth itself was threatened, humanity's answer was always the same: no mercy. The battle for Earth burned for hours. The sky above the planet glowed like a second sun, a storm of fire and steel. Roman fleets fought with everything they had. The Kari poured their endless numbers into the void. From the ground, the people of Earth could see it all. Children pointed at the streaks of light cutting across the heavens. Families huddled together, whispering prayers, not knowing if their cities would survive. Every explosion in orbit sent a shiver through the planet itself, but the humans did not break. The Resolute Dawn fired until its cannons glowed red. Carriers launched wave after wave of fighters, each squadron fighting until only wreckage remained. Dreadnoughts stood like mountains of steel, their weapons tearing holes through the enemy lines. Yet the Kari kept coming. Their fleet was vast, endless, like a tide of blades crashing against a wall. For every enemy ship destroyed, another appeared. For every squadron torn apart, another came forward. Fearless and cold, on the Resolute Dawn, alarms screamed as the hull shook. Smoke filled the bridge, and crew members struggled to keep systems. "Alive, we can't hold forever," cried the officer. "We don't need forever," the captain replied. His eyes narrowed at the swarm of enemy ships. "We just need one opening." And then the opening came. Sensors flared with new readings. Somewhere deep in the Kari formation, a command vessel pulsed with signals. It was larger than the rest, darker, covered in strange symbols. The flagship, the heart of the fleet. The captain's voice grew sharp. "All ships target that vessel." The command spread across the human lines. Missiles re-aimed. Rail cannons shifted. Fighter squadrons turned as one, diving toward the Kari flagship. The enemy realized too late, the void erupted. Dozens of human warships unleashed everything at once. Torpedoes streaked like falling stars. Cannons roared. Beams of light tore across the black. The Kari flagship's shields flickered, struggled, then shattered. The massive vessel cracked under the storm. Explosions ripped through its hull. Fire burst from its core. For a moment, the entire Kari fleet hesitated, their formations breaking. Command silenced, and then silence turned to chaos. Without their flagship, the Kari lines faltered. Ships scattered, confused, leaderless. Some tried to retreat. Others fought blindly, desperate to strike anything in reach. The humans did not waste the chance. "Push forward," the captain ordered. The fleet surged. Human warships carved through the broken enemy lines, cutting them apart with precision. One by one, the Kari vessels fell, until the sky above Earth was littered with burning wreckage. The battle was won, but victory carried a heavy weight. Hundreds of human ships were gone. Tens of thousands of lives had been lost. Cities on Earth shook with falling debris, their skies raining fire. The cradle of humanity had survived, but scarred, bloodied, forever changed. In the silence after the storm, the captain of the Resolute Dawn looked at his weary crew. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow, but they were alive. "We held," he said softly. "That's what matters." But in his heart, he knew the truth. The Kari were not defeated. They had lost a fleet, a flagship, but not their will. They would return. Next time they would come with more, and worse the galaxy had seen. Everything. Across alien worlds, broadcasts replayed the battle. Billions watched as humans fought like demons, as fleets tore each other apart above a single blue planet. To some, it was awe. To others, it was terror. Whispers grew louder. Humans destroyed a flagship. Humans fought an empire. And one, they are not prey. They are predators. And so the galaxy began to split even deeper. Some feared humanity, believing Earth was too dangerous to exist. Others looked at humans and saw strength, a chance to defy the old powers, a chance to break the chains of fear the Kari had wrapped around the stars. Alliances began to shift in secret. Spies carried messages. Fleets repositioned. War was spreading, pulling the galaxy into a storm greater than anyone had imagined. On Earth, the leaders gathered in the war chambers. They studied the maps, the reports, the endless lists of losses. The Supreme Commander's face was grim. "This is no longer a war of survival," he said. "This is a war for the future, ours and the galaxy's." The words settled over. The room like stone, there would be no peace. No return to what was before. Humanity was now locked in a struggle that would decide not only their fate, but the fate of countless others, and far away. In the shadows of the Outer Rim, the Kari plotted revenge. Their pride had been wounded. Their fleets had been shattered, but their hunger remained. And now, they were gathering something far worse than ships. Weapons long hidden. Weapons the galaxy feared to even name. The next strike would not just target Earth, it would target everything humanity had built. The humans, scarred but unbroken, prepared for what was coming. They repaired their ships, they built new ones. And in the hearts of every soldier, every pilot, every commander, a single truth burned. The Kari had fired the first shot, but humanity would fire the last, the night after the battle for Earth. was quiet, but only for a moment. Across the planet, cities glowed with repair lights. Families mourned their lost, but soldiers and engineers worked without rest. Every human knew that this victory was only the beginning. The Kari were still. Out there, reports came in from deep space. Small fleets of survivors were gathering, regrouping. But more worrying than their numbers were their intentions. Intelligence suggested something new. The Kari were building weapons unlike any seen before. Weapons that could reach Earth in hours and destroy entire fleets in minutes. The Supreme Commander stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, staring at the stars. The glow of human fleets stretched out like a net across the void. Every ship ready, every cannon loaded, every fighter armed. "We have survived the first strike," he said to his officers. "But they are preparing for something worse. We must be ready. Not tomorrow, not in days. Now." In hidden chambers on Mars and in the asteroid belt, engineers accelerated production. Weapons that had been tested in secret were now built for war. Ships larger than the tallest buildings on Earth were being completed in months. AI-guided fighters, rail cannons with impossible range, and missile arrays that could strike multiple targets at one all came online. Humanity was learning faster than the galaxy had ever imagined. And yet, even as humans prepared, the Kari were advancing. In the Outer Rim, the alien warlords convened. Their flagship had been destroyed, fleets shattered, but their pride remained. Unbroken. They brought forth secret weapons hidden for centuries, doomsday technology that could erase fleets in moments. And they trained, not for negotiation, not for diplomacy, but for total destruction. The galaxy watched. Many species whispered in fear. The Kari had been dangerous before, but now humans had shown that they were not prey, and that made the predators nervous. Some alien powers quietly aligned with Earth, sending covert support. Others tried to warn the Kari, fearing the humans' wrath. The first true test of humanity's preparation came when scouts detected the Kari moving again. A fleet larger than the first attack was heading toward the outer colonies. This time, humans would not wait for Earth to be threatened. They struck first. The resolute Dawn led the fleet. Its crew had seen battle before, but none had faced what was coming. Hundreds of ships fell in line behind them, engines glowing bright against the dark stars. The first engagement happened near a gas giant. The Kari fleet emerged from hyperspace like a tidal wave. Red engines burning, weapons charging. But humans had planned for this. Their formation was tight, precise, and deadly. Missiles fired before the Kari could react. Rail cannons struck. The first line of ships, tearing holes in the enemy formation. Fighters darted between cruisers, striking where the enemy least expected. The Kari responded with fury. Energy beams streaked across the void, destroying human vessels. Ships exploded in clouds of fire and metal. The humans fought with everything they had, but the battle was different. The Kari had learned too. Their strategy was smarter, more ruthless. For hours, the void was a storm of fire. And then, humans did something no one expected. They feigned retreat, a controlled withdrawal designed to lure the Kari deeper into space. The Kari, seeing their prey flee, pursued with abandon. Every ship in their formation stretched thin, vulnerable. That was the humans' trap. When the Kari were far enough from support, human dreadnoughts turned, revealing hidden firepower. Massive rail cannons, long-range missiles, and concentrated fighter squadrons tore into the overextended enemy fleet. Ships were destroyed faster than the Kari could react. The flagship of this fleet, a vessel even larger than the one destroyed above Earth, burned in seconds. The Kari, caught by the trap, had no choice but to retreat. But the humans did not give them an easy escape. Fighters swarmed, tracking every move, every gap, every ship. Missiles fired in deadly precision. The remnants of the fleet scattered into the darkness, humiliated again. The battle ended. But the message was clear. Humans were not only capable of surviving, they were capable of strategy, patience, and revenge. Back on Earth, the people cheered, but the celebration was quiet. Every commander knew what was coming. The Kari would not give up. They had weapons hidden, reserves untested, and pride that demanded revenge. And across the galaxy, more species watched. Some were terrified, some were inspired. All understood the same thing. Humanity had grown. Humanity had become a force to be feared. The captain of the Resolute Dawn stood on the bridge, staring into the void. His ship was scarred, his crew weary, but his eyes burned with determination. "They will return," he said. "And when they do, we will be ready. Not just to survive, but to end this on our terms." Somewhere deep in the outer rim, the Kari, warlords met again. This time, their anger was silent, deadly, and dangerous. They had underestimated humans twice, and that mistake would not happen again, because now the war was no longer just about ships or planets. It was about survival, pride, and the future of the galaxy and humanity. Scarred, tested, and unbroken, was ready to fight not for victory, but for domination. The next strike would decide everything. The galaxy held its breath. For weeks, the Kari had been silent. No fleets, no attacks. Only whispers across the stars, rumors of a weapon so powerful it could erase entire colonies in seconds. Alien councils shivered at the thought. Humanity, however, did not wait. Every fleet was ready. Every pilot trained, every weapon primed. The humans had learned the Kari's tactics, studied their attacks, planned for the inevitable, and the inevitable came faster than anyone expected. Sensors flared across human command stations. A massive energy spike appeared near a distant star system. Hundreds of Kari vessels emerged, their shapes terrifying and unfamiliar. But worse, the humans detected a new weapon, a dark mass, pulsing with energy. Moving towards Sol, the Supreme Commander's eyes narrowed. "That is not a fleet," he said. "That is a weapon, and it will destroy everything if we let it reach Earth." The orders were instant. Every ship moved at maximum speed. Humans would not wait this time. They would intercept the weapon before it could reach the planet. The Resolute Dawn led the strike force. Its crew had seen battles before, but this was different. There was no room for error. The lives of billions depended on them. The first engagement began near an asteroid field. The Kari fleet tried to protect their weapon, but human ships were faster, smarter. Missiles streaked through the void, energy beams cut apart cruisers, and fighters darted between obstacles, striking with precision, but the weapon continued. Forward, unstoppable and terrifying. The captain of the Resolute Dawn knew that hitting the Kari ships was not enough. They had to stop the weapon. Every second counted. "Target the weapon," he ordered. "Full power. Everything we have." The fleet obeyed. Missiles, rail cannons, concentrated fighter strikes all fired at once.
Ow.
But the weapon absorbed the attacks. Energy fields shimmered, shields stronger than anything humanity had ever seen. The crew's faces went pale. Every second the weapon moved closer, the closer humanity came to disaster. Then an idea sparked. The captain remembered the first battle's lesson. Humans did not always meet force with force. Sometimes strategy, cunning, and patience were stronger. "Prepare the decoy fleet," he said. "We draw them out. We trap the weapon where we want it." Human ships split, half-feigned retreat, appearing vulnerable. The Kari, seeing the chance, moved in to defend their weapon. It was a perfect trap. Hidden dreadnoughts and fighters waited at a precise point, in the shadow of a dying star. When the Kari pursued, the humans struck. Rail cannons fired from multiple directions, tearing into the formation. Missiles converged on the weapon, hitting weak points found by human engineers. For a moment, silence stretched across the void. Then the weapon faltered. Its energy fields wavered. Cracks appeared in its hull. The humans did not hesitate. Fighters swarmed. Boarding parties struck remotely. AI systems hacked into its controls. Slowly, impossibly, the weapon was neutralized. Kari fleet, now leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat. Ships fled into the darkness, carrying wounded, burned, and broken vessels. Humanity had won again, but the victory was different this time. The weapon had been the Kari's secret. Their ultimate plan, its destruction revealed their desperation. They had invested centuries into building it, believing it could end humans. In one strike, that it failed meant that the predators were now cornered. And cornered predators were the deadliest enemies imaginable. The humans knew this. Every commander, every pilot, every soldier understood that the war was no longer just about Earth or even the Kari fleets. It was about the galaxy itself. The Supreme Commander addressed the leaders of Earth and its colonies. His voice was calm, but carried a weight that echoed in every hall. "They underestimated us," he said. "They tried to strike fear. They tried to destroy us in one blow. But they have learned something far more important. Humanity does not break. Humanity does not flee. Humanity resigns. Humanity survives." Across the stars, whispers spread. The Kari had been defeated again, and this time, the galaxy could see it with its own eyes. Some species felt hope. Others felt fear. Everyone knew one thing. The humans were not to be underestimated. The captain of the Resolute Dawn looked at his crew. Ships burned around them, but their formation was still intact. Fighters returned from missions, wounded but alive. "Today, we stopped a weapon that could have ended everything," he said. "But tomorrow, the war continues. The next time we will strike before they even move." The crew nodded, knowing the truth. Humans had survived the first attacks outsmarted, the Kari's deadliest plans, and now held the advantage. But the Kari were cunning, they would not give up. And so, across the stars, both sides prepared for the final conflicto war that would decide the fate of Earth, humanity, and perhaps the galaxy itself. Because when humans rose, when they fought for survival, and when they answered the first shot, the end of the war was always in their hands. The stars were quiet for only a heartbeat. Across the galaxy, whispers spread faster than light. The humans had survived the Kari's ultimate weapon. They had outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and destroyed the Predator's deadliest plan. And now, the final battle was coming. The Kari were gathering everything. Fleets from the outer rims, warlords from hidden fortresses, and weapons older than any galaxy record all, were converging on Sol. Their pride demanded revenge. Their honor demanded destruction. But humanity was ready. From Earth, Mars, and the colonies beyond, every ship capable of flight rose into the black. Carriers bristling with fighters, dreadnoughts armed with new rail cannons, fleets of agile corvettes all moved as one. The humans called it the Cradle Line, a formation designed to defend the planet and strike deep into enemy territory. On the Resolute Dawn, the captain stood on the bridge, his eyes locked on the void ahead. "This is it," he said. "The final strike. We end this. Not tomorrow, not in weeks, but today." His crew nodded, their faces tired but burning with resolve. They had survived impossible battles, lost friends, and watched entire fleets fall. Yet nothing broke them. Nothing could. The Kari arrived like a storm. Red engines flared across the darkness, weapons charging, shields glowing. Their fleet was larger than anything humanity had faced, a tidal wave of steel and fury. The battle began without a word. Beams of energy tore through the void. Missiles screamed like falling stars. Fighters darted between cruisers, striking, vanishing, striking again. The Kari were relentless. Their ships swarmed, their weapons burned, their tactics ruthless. And humanity met them head-on. Every human vessel fired with precision. Rail cannons struck where shields were weakest. Missiles targeted engines, breaking formations. Fighter squadrons moved like shadows, darting in and out, destroying cruisers in seconds. The first hour was chaos. Ships exploded, fleets twisted, and the void became a storm of fire. The humans lost many, but the Kari lost more. Every strike was met with retaliation, but humanity adapted faster, always one step ahead. Then the captain saw the core of the Kari fleet, a massive command station. the heart of the Predator's strategy. Destroy it, and the rest would scatter. Miss it, and the war would continue for decades. Target the command station, the captain ordered. Concentrate fire. All ships, all weapons, now. Missiles, rail cannons, and energy beams converged. On the station, fighters dodged defenses, striking at weak points. The station shook, sparks flying, all cracking under the combined assault. The Kari attempted to counterattack, sending swarms of fighters and missiles. But humans had learned from every battle. Drones intercepted missiles. Squadrons fought off enemy fighters with deadly precision. Every move was planned, every shot calculated, and then silence. The command station erupted in flames, tearing apart under the firepower. Its destruction sent shockwaves across the Kari fleet. Ships tumbled, engines failed, formations collapsed, panic spread. The Predators, once confident, now fled in chaos. Humanity did not give them an easy escape. The fleet pressed forward, cutting through the retreating forces. The void was littered with burning ships, the Kari's power, their pride, their empire. A fear-all crumbled before human strategy and resolve. When the last enemy ship fled beyond detection, silence returned. The stars seemed brighter. The galaxy itself seemed to breathe again. On the resolute dawn, the crew cheered, exhausted but alive. The captain allowed himself a small smile. They had done it. Against impossible odds, humanity had survived, defended Earth, and defeated a predator empire. Across the galaxy, alien species took notice. Some feared the humans, some admired them, but all understood one truth. Humanity was no longer a minor player. They were a force that could not be ignored. On Earth, people looked to the skies. The blue planet had survived. Cities glowed, people celebrated, and for the first time in years, hope returned. The Supreme Commander addressed the world. They fired the first shot, he said. We answered. And in answering, we did more than survive. We have shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Today, we did not just defend Earth. We defended the future. In the void, the stars were silent witnesses. The Kari had been defeated, but the galaxy now knew that humanity would not bow, would not kneel, and would not be underestimated. And somewhere in the shadows, other species whispered, wondering what humanity would do next. Because one thing was certain. When humans answered the first shot, they ended wars. Before anyone else could start them, the war was over. But the legend had begun. Humanity had fired the last shot, and the galaxy would never forget.